Hello everyone! Welcome to another Star Trek Online video. Today I'm going to take a look at the Typhoon. Now this was an event ship that you could obtain for free a few months back, but generally you can use like a build like I'm using here on a lot of ships, maybe with slight modifications. Now this is going to be a budget build, it's not going to be completely free, but it's not going to be outrageous and you can replace the stuff. I will make some recommendations for replacements for some things, if you don't have them. Now, this is a very nice ship with a 5-3 weapons layout, and I've decided to go with a dual beambank build on this. Now, you could use cannons on this, you could use like just normal beam arrays for a broadside build. With 5-3, it's like very well suited for a forward-facing build, so that's what I'm using here. Now with dual beam banks, for the rear I have the kinetic cutting beam and then 2 omni beams. Now you can mount one omni beam that's part of a set and one omni beam that's not part of a set. Those are omni beam restrictions, right? So the non-set omni beam can be crafted. Now I have chosen anti-proton here for my damage type. You can use any damage type you want and you can craft the according omni beam for it, or you can buy it on the exchange. They are always being sold there. The set omni beam, the anti-proton set omni beam, would be the ancient one from an episode, and I think it was Sphere of Influence. Let's check here. Yes, here the ancient omnidirectional beam array. That would be the anti-proton set omni beam, and you can use that instead of the power one. This is just an event beam that works with any damage type essentially, and is mostly interesting for its resonance charge. But as I've said, you can just throw the set omni of your damage type on it. There are set omnis for every damage type, and you might just have to look at the wiki to find the quest for whatever damage type you want to use. Now I'm simply having the discovery gear equipped here. Well, the deflector is once again from an event, because it's a very good idle, just like anti-proton, and it's a good deflector for anti-proton. If you don't have this, you can just replace it with the reputation stuff as well. And if your gear is not yellow, don't worry. If it's purple or whatever, it's fine. Make sure it's Mark 15 first and worry about rarity later on. Now, you can also see I have upgraded this ship to tier 6X, and if you don't have that, don't worry, you will be missing that one console slot. It doesn't really matter that much. I've just filled all of the engineering consoles with anti-proton isomax. You can buy those off the exchange. Prices vary. Anti-proton has recently risen a little bit in price, but for example, something like Polaron would be still very cheap. And as I've said, like you could do the same thing with just Polaron up here. And when you choose a damage type, you can always look at the available sets. Polaron has some interesting set gear in my Marauder video that used cannons, but there I've shown the 2 quests where you can get Polaron gear from quests. So, moving on. For my science consoles, I have the console the ship came with, simply because, you know, it came with the ship and it's a fun thing to use, I feel like. I've got the Borg console together with my cutting beam. I have the polymorphic probe array, which is a cheap console from the exchange that buffs anti-proton damage and launches some probes, which are fun, I think. Now here is the Fleet Power Network array. This is something that comes from the Zen store. And it's a very good console. It comes from the Avani. But if you don't have that, you can replace that with a bunch of other things. There would, for example, you could just use Bellum consoles. Those come from the, I think it was the Discovery reputation. Let's see, it comes from a reputation store. Right, so each reputation has a store down here where you can buy stuff for Elysium. So you do need to have Elysium for them. But yes, exactly. That's where they came from. So there is one that increases beam damage and gives you critical chance. So if you wanted to, you could use that. You can use them together with Isomax. So you could fill all of those tactical slots with that if you have nothing else to put there. And if you have the dilithium to spare, mind you. But yeah, the probe array is a cheap console you can put there. The shield absorptive frequency generator comes from a ship that's available for dilithium, right? This comes from the Veldor Warbird, and it costs, I think, 75,000 dilithium. So this is something that you can buy for free, essentially, if you grind dilithium. And it's a very nice console to help you stay alive. This is from a reputation. 0 Point is also from a reputation. You can also, into the science slots, throw crafted consoles like the exotic particle field exciter. It's not like you really need the particle generator that much, but those consoles come with a lot of different mods. So you could get one that, for example, has turn rate on it. This is one that has resistance on it, but you could get one with turn rate if you want to turn a little bit more. Since your engineering slots are filled with Isomax, you cannot use the normal turn rate consoles. But those particle field exciters are definitely a way to turn better if you want to, and you get them with the turn mod. They also increase your shield capacity, helping you stay alive, especially together with the shield absorption frequency generator. So there are plenty of options to fill the other slots in any way you want to. And if you upgraded this ship even more, you could mount another Isonac if you wanted to. And as I've said, if you don't have it in tier 6X, you wouldn't have that console slot and you would have one less Isomac. It would be perfectly fine. Let's talk about the stations next. So I have decided to go with beams, as I've said before, which means I'm using beam fire at will, torpedo spread, Chemocyte laced weaponry, and tactical team for my tactical bridge office abilities. Now, this here is a universal slot. You could replace that with something else if you wanted to. Chemocyte laced weaponry comes from a lockbox, but it can usually be bought in the exchange for maybe around 5 million or so. As I said, prices vary. If you don't have that, don't worry, you can just throw the tactical team in here. Now, this build is assuming that you are running Boimler. This is also one of the things where well, that does cost maybe 35 million or so on the exchange, maybe up to 40. Prices vary. It's usually a bit cheaper when there was a lobby sale recently. So the trade that I'm talking about is the Boimler effect, which, yeah, I guess more to trades later. So for science, I have gravity well, scrambled sensors, tractor beam. Those are nice crowd control abilities that I like, and they also trigger unconventional systems, which this time I'm running here. Once again, if you don't have it, don't worry too much about it. But it's something that you can also buy on the exchange, and you might want to save up money for. Then hazard emitter science team as heals, and here in the engineering I have emergency power to weapons, emergency power to shields, an engineering team, and I have recursive shearing. Now you could play around with more temporal abilities if you wanted to. There are a lot of fun other ones. This tactical seat here is also a command seat, so you could put something like a suppression barrage here and move beam fight wheel down to 2. Actually, if you don't have Chemocyte laced weaponry, what you could do is you can run a suppression barrage 1 here and a beam fired wheel 2, then a torpedo spread 1 and a tactical team 1, right? So that would be an easy way to change that, and it wouldn't need Chemocyte, and it wouldn't be bad. Now, let's go to the traits. As I've already said, I'm running Boimler here, which is a trait that is bought from Lobi or from the exchange, and it will help you with Bridge Officer Recharge. Now, if you don't have Boimler, you can always double up on certain abilities, right? You can run 2 copies of Beam Fight Will and alternate between them. You can run 2 copies of like emergency power to weapons or so and alternate between them. Although, when it comes to those emergency powers, I always say you can't simply put bridge officers, duty officers. So if we go to our roster and active space, you can simply use damage control engineers. Those are not very expensive, and if you put 3 damage control engineers on your ship, you can essentially rotate between 2 emergency powers without a problem. And you don't need any further cooldown reduction, right? Those sell usually for less than 1 million. And you just get 3 of those. And it doesn't have to be this specifically one, right? I'm running 3 that are the same, but there are other named bridge officers with the same trait, right? Those are just also offering damage against a large ship, which is pretty meaningless. The important part is their damage control bridge officers with a chance to reduce the recharge time for emergency power subsystem abilities, right? This is the important part that you care about. And if you run 3 of those, you can keep cycling between emergency powered weapons and shields. So, other traits here, I do have unconventional systems here, which helps reduce the recharge of consoles. Now this is a trait that's only useful if you're actually using universal consoles. Here I have my polymorphic probe array, for example. I have the fleet power network here. And I do have the console of this ship, the web that you can shoot out. Now for the starship traits, I have chosen some relatively cheap ones here. So the Temporal Insight is a trait that comes for free from the Delta Recruit. The Improved Critical System comes for free from the Temporal Recruit. Now, of course, if you haven't been around for a recruitment event, you won't have those. Then Emergency Weapon Cycle is from the Zen Store. It's a very good trait, and you might want to work towards that eventually. Like, there are events that give you ship coupons, like the event campaign that happens each year, so eventually you're going to be able to pick that up. Then I've mounted the trait from this ship. And you might only have 4 trait slots here. The 5th one here is unlocked at fleet holding. And the other 2 trait slots down here are unlocked when you upgrade the ship itself. But I also have here, like History Will Remember, another Zen Store trait. It's more of a tanking trait, but it's a pretty useful trait, I feel like, on most ships if you don't have anything else to mount. And here is Predictive Algorithms, which comes from the Intelligence Specialization. Now, there are obviously a lot of better traits that you can get, but this is just a very more like budget-oriented way. And when it comes to starship traits, I always say mount what you have and then try to, in time, unlock more. As there are more free ships coming out with events, and as you can get maybe even rarer ships with the event campaign and so on, your amount of starship traits will grow and you will get better ones in time. But use what you have. Now, space reputation-wise, I would usually recommend things like critical chance, critical severity, more critical chance. Armor penetration is relatively nice. I also have here a bonus all damage based on auxiliary power, which helps if you boost auxiliary power by a bit. This is obviously more useful if you actually use something like maybe a consumable or so, like an auxiliary battery, or you play around with your settings here and boost auxiliary. There are other options. There is one that I think just gives all weapon damage. Yeah, all weapon damage, for example, would probably be more reasonable right here. We could just slot that in there. And, well, active reputations, they have a very long cooldown, so slot what you have, what you like, I guess. They aren't, I never considered them that important. And now, let's jump into an Elite Agala and shoot some ships. Yes, let's give the Bentens a... Now, you want to make sure that your weapon power is set to maximum. You want to probably use your command aura here. Now let's give them a lovely gravity well, and let's start shooting them. We can send some probes their way. And we can then throw a net. See, they are now gravity well, so the net should... Wait, I'm gonna switch target here to... And isn't that net a fun ability? So the net essentially, right, it travels 10 km in your direction and it does proton damage to enemies basically, and it holds them for a bit. But if you gravity well them together and then throw a net in their face, I don't know.
Looks like our fight got them to notice us.
I feel like it's a fun ability. It would obviously work better if there were more of them, I guess. And, well, now the net is on cooldown. By the way, if you have done, I forgot to mention it earlier, but if you have done the summer event, there is a console that reduces ability cooldowns, not ability, console cooldowns, right? So there is a console that teleports you around, reduces console cooldowns while doing so. That would also be an option and something that you can mount here. And, well, I mean, if you did that event, it was essentially free, so, you know. Can throw some recursive shearing there on one of them, because why not? Oh, look at that, I think we called in Soritas, a photonic one. So that was like my captain's ability here, because this is a science captain. Now let's hold that one a little bit still with a tractor beam, and then shoot it with our beams there.
Keep concentrating fire on individual ships. Separate them and whittle down their numbers. We will not go quietly.
You will not go quietly, is that so? So we do have our snare ready again. Now if we get a little bit closer, it should travel obviously faster, so we're gonna do a gravity well, and we're gonna unleash our snare. We're also gonna unleash our probes, because why not? And we're gonna fire it willingly. Wait, didn't I unleash my snare? Where is my snare? I mean, it is on cooldown, so I guess the game trolled me there. That's a shame. Well, let's give that guy here some recursive shearing. Recursive shearing is a very nice damage ability. If you don't have recursive shearing 3, you can also use 2. Recursive shearing 2 is something you can purchase at an NPC. 3 is something that has to be crafted and you can get on the exchange. Or like if you are like the operative yourself, you could craft them. Like special. It's you need to have the specialization level to craft those manuals yourself. Okay, we could, like, for example, use the Avani console, so we just shoot a little bit faster now. And this ship dies a little bit faster. And doesn't it look nice?
Surrender to the Benton Guard. Sensors are picking up small habitations in some of the asteroids, possibly consistent with bolt holes and temporary hideouts.
Okay, let's try the web again. There we go, web is forming. And sadly, I failed to actually get the other ones in the gravity well. That's a shame. This guy is certainly getting webbed. So let's put some more recursive shearing on that one. And down he goes. I should have set the gravity well maybe a little bit more in the back. Those ships don't seem so inclined to get closer to us. Which is a shame, isn't it? It's maybe not quite as effective as it would be with cannons and scandal volley, but still, gravity welling them together and then throwing a nice little team fight wheel in there is fun. You could, by the way, also use beam overload if you prefer beam overload. This would work just the same. I mean, look at how pretty this ship is. And it looks relatively nice. I'm also a fan of anti-proton. I think I've mentioned that before, but I think anti-proton beams just look nice, don't they?
I'm taking you with me.
We now have the flagship here. That certainly gets some recursive shearing. And it might also get a net. So let's go with that. We have the gravity well ready. Let's make sure they don't get too far away from our lovely net. Net is a bit too high. I should have maybe been a bit lower there when I launched it. Oh, that's fine. I mean, I'm not using my captain abilities all too much, I suppose. I could definitely have increased my damage here a bit more with those. Let's launch some polymorphic probes and annoy them a bit with those. And I might even have to launch a healer too.
Excellent work. We'll send over a pacification.
And we're gonna take some fleet knocks. So yeah, this is the Typhoon, and I've tried to keep this relatively budget friendly and only using a few sandstore things and so on. Now, as I've said, you can even replace those with something else. And this is just generally how you can build like a dual beam bank build. You can use this on any other 5-3 ship. I mean, you can also use it on a 4-3 ship or something like that if you wanted to. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.